just, it was a pleasure to be a part of that, that game, of course, special teams, offense, defense. It's one of those games where the stuff that we've been working on from camp finally came together. Now I think the biggest detail for us is trying to duplicate the effort. I thought the effort was fantastic. I think everybody would say that the effort was fantastic. And then just the way that our guys schematically were able to go out and execute. I thought we executed at a really, really high level. And then for the first time, it was one of those situations where we'd had games where one person, this person, that person, just one play away, and those one play aways, they came together this week, right? One person away came together. So we had just a great afternoon. A lot of passing yards, of course, a lot of rushing yards, but the details are what we were really, really impressed with. Moving forward, if we can keep that up, we have a good chance week to week.
One of the things that also you guys talk about is chasing history, trying to become one of the offensive leaders in NFL history. How big is that for this team? Is that something you guys think about, or just your thoughts on history in this team?
Yeah, I think that comes with us just chasing excellence. We're really, really trying to chase excellence every day, and it's not just on the field in games like practice. We just finished walking through, and the details that's coming out in those walkthroughs are it's amazing. Every single alignment. If a guy, a wideout, is not perfectly aligned, the wideout beside him is moving him, is shifting him, is started over. So I think that they've gotten to a point starting this all season where, the expectation for them is they want to chase excellence, and they feel like they have the talent. And I feel like they have the talent to chase excellence and continue to play at a high level. But this is one of the first times. I've been on some good football teams, but it's one of the first times when your best players are some of the most detailed players, like Panay, the run in the game. The detail wasn't the fact that he just executed to a T what we wanted him to do on the first level, but it was the effort on the second level, and then replacing, David right there at the end and putting him into the end zone. Those details are not just happening on the game field; they're happening in the walkthroughs, they're happening in practice, and our scheme now it continues to get better because of the guys and the way that they're playing and their effort.
Dan was just talking about how David is really a team-first guy and kind of sharing the wealth at this point in his career. How have you seen him lean into that this season?
First things first, when he first got here, I thought it was about building trust. We started the right way. Dan started the right way. He listened, right? When David had a concern or a question, he listened to him. It wasn't one of those situations, you be the player, I'll be the coach. And once we built the trust, from a staff to David, it was just, we just watched it. The one way that he attacks it is the way he prepares, not only on the field, but in the weight room. So we've had, even in our room, I know that we've crossed a lot more lines that we wouldn't have crossed if it went from David from a strength standpoint, from a quickness standpoint. And you don't have to look any, further than watching what he does. And then when we hit the field, talking about those details I'm talking about, he's not only detailing himself, but he knows the alignment of tight ends. He knows the alignment of wideouts. He knows exactly what's going on in our scheme at the first level, at the second level. He knows when a receiver's supposed to be on support. So when they're not there or when they are there, the first thing you're going to see him do a lot of times when they are there is to reward them with praise, which is a very, very, very good form from a teammate. It feels good, right? So that's what we've seen. The other detail I think that we've seen is he doesn't ride the ebb and flow. He's very serious and he's very tough, but he doesn't ride the ebb and flow. Good game, not too high, not so good game, not too low. And I think that mentality is directly connected to his grit and his toughness.
Throw some pretty big comparisons on David a minute ago. He said Walter Payton and Earl Campbell. That's what I get your reaction, just running style he was talking about.
Yeah, I think the head football coach answered that question well. And I lean on him, So this right now, I'm just going to lean on Coach Dan. That's what he said. He said what he said. All right.
But, let me just ask you differently than how much you enjoy his running style. It's not, too common, I guess, in today's NFL that people are that physical and that overpowering continuously, I guess.
No, and I think that is continued. It's one of the reasons why he's gotten better, right? He was running the ball efficiently and hard before. Now he's gotten better and stronger and more physical and quicker and all these details that he's continuing to pick up as we move forward. It's fun to watch because, you can see him make a move on somebody like he did at the Chargers, go have the longest run in our room. You hear me, Jameer? The longest run in our room to this date. And then still, right, very subtle. All right. And then at the same time, you see him catch the check down and lower his shoulder and still have enough. So I haven't really, it's not a lot of chances to see that type of style where it did used to show up a lot more. But he's not only a throwback, he's a modern back as well. So he can just do it all. He can hurt you out of the backfield. Some of his check downs this year have been just tremendous. So, there's kind of this new age back there, and there's this old school with the physical toughness, but now with the quickness and the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, a lot of those guys didn't get that many opportunities like he's getting.
Down, first guy is really what stands out with David, but he makes guys miss in a phone booth, like, very few can. I'm just curious, like, what is the attribute that makes him so shifty, I guess, in such tiny areas? Is that a vision thing? Is it balance? Like, what allows him to succeed in that way?
Well, that's a great question. The one thing that happens is, first of all, he has great contact balance. So he's never out of whack. His feet are always underneath him. You can just kind of watch when he gets ready to make a cut. The other thing is that he has extreme short area quickness. Usually when you get up into the 215, 20, 25, every time you go up, short area quickness tends to drop a little bit. You can still be a big build to speed guy at that weight, but when you start to go up in weight, you start to lose some of this shiftiness. That's just God-given ability there in that short area quickness. And then the final thing, he has elite vision. He sets up runs and he sets up people before they actually see him, and that's something that you can get better at. That's something that film study gets you better at. That's something that knowing where the second level, whether they're in the over front, under front, knowing where the level of the linebacker level is coming from, knowing where support is coming. So he's already working on that support element before he gets to it. And then the final piece to all that is you're really, really good in short area quickness when people are on their heels. And he places people on their heels because of his ability to just run right through them. So those things are the reason why he's very talented in that area. Yeah.
You mentioned something interesting about just coaching in general, the idea of building trust by not making it you listen to me, I'm the coach, you're the listener. I'm just kind of curious how unique to this regime is that, and do you have maybe a specific example of just what that looks like?
So one of the things I will say is that I probably learned more from players than I've learned from coaches just watching muscle memory. If you're watching tape, if you're watching these guys the best, and that's what we try to do, we try to watch the best, not only as players, but we try to watch the best as coaches because there are attributes that you'll learn and things and details, hand placement, foot placement, all these things that you learn. So there are things that there has been several times this year when, I try to get our backs to accelerate their vision sometime in protection, and I'm basing it off of what I'm seeing from maybe more of a scheme, maybe a little bit more of what the safeties are doing and the things that can help us there. And they may be, they may see it a little bit different from where they're standing at. It may be something that there's a slight lean or the right foot back of a linebacker. The linebacker level is a little bit displaced and I really can't see it as tight. So these are the things now I'm starting to spend more time on, right? So I'm like, hey, this was your rule you created. Here's something where let's look at the difference in linebacker levels. Let's also look at sprinter stance. Look at the things that you're seeing on tape too. And I think that's important. I think this also, it creates this culture of inclusivity and everybody gets a chance to work together and win there.
What are the advantages of having Montgomery go a full drive and then Jaw and being able to alternate throughout the entire game like that with almost no drop off?
What we're trying to do is to make sure, first of all, that we're using them to the utmost. So now you can kind of tell we'll mix them. There's some mixing going in and going out. But what they are is when they're in there, they're on a roll, first of all, but they're very, very, very ready to go. Like they're ready to go when they're in the game. There's no one's fatigued. Everybody also knows that when you're in there, I better, this is my time. I better, I got to get going because this guy's going to eat up the next drive, maybe with 3 runs and maybe a touchdown and maybe 2, but, so that's just kind of the way they see it. And we don't necessarily see it as drives. Sometimes it's more about how we plan to attack people.
All right, let's go.
When you acquire somebody midseason, the way he did with Za'Darius, and he's played a lot of football, maybe it makes it a little bit easier, but what is your kind of plan of attack as a coach to get them as incorporated into the scheme as quickly as possible?
You know what? It's tough because we got to get ready for games and try to get them ready. Cam Davis, who's my assistant, our assistant D-line coach, Cam did a good job of meeting with Za'Darius extra, spending a lot of time meeting with him, going through walkthroughs and doing some of that stuff while I was getting the other guys ready to play against Houston. So it's a challenge, but I mean, when you've been in this league long enough, that's just what's expected. So Cam did a good job of meeting with him, and then he kind of takes him and does the basic intro of what the expectations are, and then really you don't install an entire playbook. You just install a game plan. So whatever the game plan is, that's kind of what you give him. And so he did a good job last week, and we'll expect more going forward.
Can you just expand on your thoughts of what he was able to do last week? I mean, obviously they were playing a certain way. He wasn't going to pile up a bunch of sacks, but just
And we only played 47 defensive snaps, so you're not going to get a bunch of sacks in there, but had some effect on the quarterback. Did a good job. The thing that helps is when you have guys that can play multiple positions and move around, and he's done it in this league for a long time, and we were able to kind of utilize that, and we'll keep looking for that going forward, just moving them around at different spots and kind of play it that way.
We know this, but it was very evident watching the tape back, like the communication that was going into some of the games that they were doing up front. Do they do that on the fly? How much of that is called ahead of time? How much of that is...
We spend a lot of time during the week kind of walking and talking through everything, and if you get this look, then do that, and so that the players can just go out and play, and sometimes you call something as a coach and they give you a different look, and the players have just like on offense, the players had the ability to change that. So Z's been around this league a lot, and he's been great for our room because he understands, he can look at things, he can hear things, and he's able to adapt and adjust.
Did Broderick help? I saw you guys activated him. Obviously going to have some fresh legs, but he talked about going through kind of that body transformation last offseason. He was excited to contribute. Injury was a tough one. How much do you think he can help you down the stretch?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's been practicing the last couple of weeks. He's done a good job. I think he was the scout team player of the week this past week, and has done a really good job for us. And so have the other guys that have been playing. And so you guys know the standard that AG and Dan set here. So you got to compete for a job. You don't just walk in and jump right in the lineup. So we'll kind of see how the week goes and see where everything goes and go from there. So, but I like where he is right now. I like his mindset, and he's been doing a good job for us.
Pascal said you really worked on tapping into an identity for him, getting him to kind of embrace what he does best. Is that critical to getting the most out of a player, is kind of tapping into them knowing themselves before taking it out on the field?
Absolutely. I love Josh Pascal. Love that kid, man. Like what he's been through, and then where he is from when we started to where he is now. I mean, you guys, a lot of times you may look at a stat line to try to figure out a story of how a guy's playing. I would put this player up against anyone in the run game as far as what he's doing. He doesn't always make the tackle, but when you go and watch the tape, I guarantee you our opponent knows exactly who he is and what he does to tight ends and tackles and all of those things. And we missed him for 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks, and still found ways to win. And now that he's been back the last 2 weeks, he's made a huge impact. And so anytime you see a guy that works their butt off like he does, like Josh does, and start to have some success, it's a great thing for the organization.
A little bit, just in terms of identifying a player's identity. how much of that is you watching their film before meeting them versus, you know, the conversations with the player, because you obviously have strong personal relationships with your guys?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, you can watch the tape and you have an idea of what you want certain players to look like. I remember I had a guy, Jack Crawford, when I coached for the Raiders. This is way back in 2012, and he came in the league, and Jack, I remember walking in the room. We didn't have iPads and all this other stuff back then, but Jack was in the room and he was watching Von Miller, who we had at Texas A&M, and he's watching Von and said, "What are you doing?" He's watching Von, and I said, "Okay, what's your size?" "Well, I'm 6'5", 280 pounds. "Well, what's Von's size?" 6'2", 250. I said, "Well, think about it. You're watching the wrong guy." And then we gave him Alden Smith to watch. So I think part of it is knowing the body types and knowing what their skill set is. We're all going to play a certain way with a certain toughness and grit and all of those things, but then you got to figure out because a lot of times we talk as coaches, this player can't do this player can't do that. Well, our job is to figure out what they can do. Like, whatever they do well, let's figure out what they do well, and then just continue to build on that. And I think we've been able to do that with Josh and a couple of other guys now.
Pat O'Connor giving you as kind of the next man up on that D line there.
Another tough guy, right? That brings. He's won a Super Bowl. He plays multiple positions. Just the guys love him. Like, I love him. I mean, he works his butt off. He does a good job on special teams. But more than anything, the position flexibility. Like, he can play nose, tackle, end, and you guys have heard me say that's a big part, because when you go to the games, you can only bring so many guys. So, I mean, we've had our share of injuries, so when guys go down, it's easy to just plug another guy in a spot, you know. So that's really what Pat brings for us.